This happened in March of 2018 off the coast of Greenland. I was working as a marine biology research assistant on a small vessel called the Njord, part of a 3-week expedition studying Arctic char migration patterns. Our crew was 5 people total: myself, Dr. Henrik Larsen, who led the expedition, 2 other researchers named Mikkel and Astrid, and our captain, an older Norwegian man everyone called Jørgen, who'd been navigating these waters for 40 years. The vessel itself was a retrofitted fishing boat, about 52 feet long, with a cramped lower cabin where we kept our equipment and a small galley that always smelled like burnt coffee and diesel fuel. We'd anchor in these remote fjords for days at a time, dropping hydrophones into the water to record ambient sound, tracking fish movements, taking water samples, the kind of work that's 90% boredom and 10% freezing your hands while trying to pull up nets in sub-zero temperatures. Our sleeping quarters were 4 narrow bunks in a space barely larger than a walk-in closet, with a single porthole that looked out onto whatever stretch of dark water we were parked in that night. We'd been anchored in this particular fjord for 3 days. It was one of those locations that didn't even have a proper name on our nautical charts, just coordinates: 71.2 degrees north, 51.6 degrees west. The water there was unnaturally still, like black glass, surrounded by these massive ice walls that rose maybe 300 feet on either side. Jørgen didn't like it. He kept saying the depth readings were wrong, that his sonar was showing inconsistent measurements, but Dr. Larsen insisted we stay because the char populations in these isolated fjords were exactly what we needed for the study. I was sharing the night shift with Mikkel, monitoring the hydrophones we'd deployed at different depths. We'd lower these underwater microphones down on cables, sometimes as deep as 800 feet, and record everything: whale songs if we were lucky, mostly just the creaking of ice, the occasional rumble of calving glaciers, shrimp colonies clicking away. Mikkel was this tall Danish guy, mid-30s, who'd done this kind of work in Antarctica, the Baltic, all over. Nothing really fazed him. He'd sit there with his headphones on, adjusting frequency filters, making notes in his waterproof field notebook with this specific brand of pencil, Statler Mars Lumograph, because he said regular pens froze up too easily. The coffee maker in our galley was an ancient bun model that Jørgen had apparently salvaged from a Coast Guard vessel back in 1997. It made the worst coffee I've ever tasted, but it was hot, and that's all that mattered when you're doing 4-hour shifts in temperatures that hover around -15 Celsius. Astrid had brought these Norwegian cookies, krumkake, that her grandmother made, and we'd been rationing them out, 1 per shift, like they were gold. It was Mikkel who first noticed something odd in the recordings. This was around 11:47 p.m. on our second night in that fjord, March 14th. He pulled one side of his headphones off and looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Not scared exactly, more like confused. He asked me to come listen to the feed from hydrophone 3, which was deployed at about 620 feet. At first, I didn't hear what he was talking about, just the usual stuff: ambient water noise, some ice movement, that weird clicking sound that shrimp make. But then he isolated a specific frequency range between 3,000 and 7,000 hertz, and that's when I heard it. It sounded almost like a voice, not words, nothing you could understand, but these rising and falling tones that had a pattern to them, musical almost. Mikkel played it back 3 times, and each time I got this uncomfortable feeling in my stomach that I couldn't explain. He saved the file as anomaly 041-03118.wav and made a note in his log. Dr. Larsen was asleep, and we decided not to wake him. Probably should have. Instead, we kept monitoring, and over the next hour we picked up the same pattern twice more. The second time, it lasted almost 8 minutes. The third time, it seemed to be coming from a different location, shallower, maybe only 200 feet down. Jørgen came down around 1:30 a.m. to refill his thermos. He was a man of few words, but when Mikkel mentioned the sounds, he stopped mid-pour and asked to hear them. We played him the clearest recording. He listened with his eyes closed, his face completely neutral. Then he said something in Norwegian that I didn't catch. Mikkel's expression changed. When I asked what Jørgen had said, Mikkel just shook his head and told me it was probably nothing, just an old sailor's superstition. Everything changed on March 16th at exactly 3:22 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was looking at my watch, calculating how much longer until my shift ended, when the sound came through so loud that Mikkel actually yanked his headphones off. I had mine around my neck at that moment, but I could still hear it bleeding through the speakers, this sustained, high-pitched vocalization that started low and climbed up in pitch until it was almost painful to listen to. It lasted maybe 45 seconds. Dr. Larson came stumbling out of his bunk, asking what the hell that was. We played it back for him. His face went white. See, Dr. Larson had his doctorate in marine acoustics. He'd spent 20 years studying whale communications, seal vocalizations, even recorded dolphin echolocation patterns in 6 different oceans. And he was telling us, in this very quiet, very controlled voice, that what we'd just recorded didn't match any known marine mammal. The frequency range was wrong, the pattern was wrong, the acoustic signature was completely unique. He wanted to pull up the hydrophone immediately to check if there was equipment malfunction. But when Jørgen tried to retract the cable for hydrophone 3, it wouldn't budge. The winch was working fine, the cable was intact, but something was holding it down there. Jørgen said it felt like there was weight on it, maybe 500, 600 pounds of resistance. He'd deployed and retrieved thousands of hydrophones in his career. This had never happened. We stood there on the deck in the freezing darkness, watching Jørgen work the winch controls, and I became aware of how utterly silent everything was. No wind, no water movement, just this absolute stillness that felt wrong. And then Mikkel pointed at the water about 30 feet from the starboard side. There was something there, not breaking the surface, but just beneath it, creating this faint disturbance pattern, something large, moving parallel to the boat. I should mention, my name is Fernanda, and I run this channel, The Hidden Archive, because of experiences like this one. Because there are things that happen to people that don't fit into the neat categories we've created for understanding the world, and those stories deserve to be told. That shape in the water stayed with us for maybe 90 seconds before it disappeared. None of us said anything. We just watched the spot where it had been, waiting for it to come back. It didn't, but the hydrophone situation got stranger. Dr. Larson decided to try communicating with whatever was down there. I know how that sounds, but he had this theory that if it was an unknown cetacean species, maybe it was curious about our equipment, maybe playing with it the way dolphins sometimes interact with unfamiliar objects. He played back our recording of the vocalization through an underwater speaker we had for exactly this kind of behavioral research. We transmitted it at 3:47 a.m. For 5 minutes, nothing. Then, hydrophone 2, which was at a different location, about 400 meters east, picked up a response. Not the same pattern we'd recorded, a different one, lower in frequency, more complex. It lasted 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Astrid started timing the intervals. She noticed that every response came exactly 7 minutes and 30 seconds after we transmitted, like clockwork. We tested it 4 more times. Same result. Dr. Larson's hands were actually shaking as he made notes. He kept saying this was impossible, that no animal had that kind of precise temporal awareness, that kind of deliberate pacing to their communication. By 5:15 a.m., just before sunrise, we'd accumulated almost 40 minutes of recordings. The vocalizations were becoming more elaborate. They started incorporating elements of our transmissions, but modified, rearranged. It was learning from us, or teaching us. I couldn't tell which, and that distinction felt important in a way I couldn't articulate. Then Jorgen said something that made my blood run cold. He'd been checking the depth readings compulsively, and he told us the sonar was now showing something massive, approximately 150 feet below us, roughly 40 feet in length, moving in slow circles. The sonar signature didn't match anything in the database. Not a whale, not a submarine. The shape was wrong, too narrow in some places, too irregular, and it was ascending, slowly, 10 feet per minute. We stood there doing the math in our heads. At that rate, it would reach the surface in exactly 15 minutes. Dr. Larson wanted to stay. Jorgen wanted to leave immediately. They argued for maybe 30 seconds before Jorgen just went to the bridge and started the engines without another word. As we pulled up anchor, the hydrophones went completely silent. Whatever had been down there, it stopped vocalizing the moment we moved. We were maybe 200 meters away from our original position when Astrid screamed. She was pointing back at the spot we'd just left. Something broke the surface. I saw it for maybe 4 seconds before it went back under, but those 4 seconds are burned into my memory with absolute clarity. It was not a whale. The body was too elongated, too serpentine. It was not a seal. The proportions were completely wrong. What I saw was pale, almost luminescent in the pre-dawn light, with what looked like a ridge of fin-like protrusions running along the spine. But it was the front end that made me grip the railing so hard my fingers went numb. The head, if you could call it that, was vaguely humanoid in profile, too large, too angular, but humanoid. And there was a sound, not from our hydrophones, from the air. This vocalization that I felt in my chest cavity before I actually heard it with my ears. The same rising and falling pattern we'd recorded, but louder, resonant, and undeniably directed at us. It lasted maybe 10 seconds, then whatever it was slipped back under and didn't resurface. None of us spoke. Jorgen kept the engines at full speed, navigating us out of that fjord as fast as the Njord could manage. Mikkel had turned completely white. Dr. Larson was staring at his equipment like it had personally betrayed him. Astrid was crying silently, wiping her face with her sleeve, and I just stood there, watching the water behind us, waiting for it to follow. It didn't, but I had this overwhelming certainty that it was still there, watching us leave from somewhere beneath the surface. The sun came up about 40 minutes later, normal golden Arctic sunlight, the kind of beauty that usually made this work worthwhile. It felt obscene somehow, like the world had no right to look that peaceful after what we'd just witnessed. We didn't report it. That's the thing nobody tells you about these situations. When you see something that shouldn't exist, your first instinct isn't to tell everyone. It's to protect yourself from being labeled crazy. Dr. Larson spent the entire journey back to port reviewing the recordings, running analysis after analysis. He was trying to find an explanation that fit within known marine biology. He never did. The files were stored on the expedition's main server, backed up on 3 separate hard drives. Dr. Larson said he was going to submit them to a colleague at the University of Bergen who specialized in unidentified marine vocalizations. We all agreed that's what we do: approach it scientifically, get expert opinions, follow proper channels. 2 weeks after we returned, Dr. Larson sent me an email. Subject line, "The files." The email itself just said, "They're gone. All of them. Server corruption. Backups failed. I don't understand how this is possible. Do you still have your personal recordings?" I did. I'd saved 4 of them to my laptop. I told him yes. He replied, "Don't share them. Not yet. I need to figure out what happened." That was April 4th, 2018. I never heard from him again. I tried reaching out multiple times. His university email bounced back. His department said he'd taken an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons. Mikkel stopped responding to my messages after 3 attempts. Astrid changed her phone number. Jorgen's boat, the Njord, was sold 6 months later. The new owner renamed it. Here's what I found out later, completely by accident. I was researching something unrelated, looking through historical maritime records from Greenland, and I came across a report from 1952. A Danish fishing crew had reported strange vocalizations in almost the exact same coordinates where we'd been anchored. They described seeing something in the water that they refused to identify beyond saying it sang like a woman drowning. There were 3 other reports I could find, one from 1977, one from 1989, one from 2003, all in that same region, all describing similar acoustic phenomena, all approximately 15 to 18 years apart. I recorded our encounter in 2018. You do the math on when the next one might happen. But here's what really keeps me awake. In 2019, a research team from Canada was conducting deep sea mapping in that same area using autonomous underwater vehicles. One of their AUVs disappeared, just vanished. They recovered it 4 months later, washed up on a beach 200 miles away. The data storage was corrupted, but the exterior showed these long, parallel scratches in the metal casing that their engineers couldn't explain. Too deep, too precise, made by something with significant strength and apparent purpose. I still have those 4 audio files. I've never shared them publicly because I don't know what the right thing to do with them is. Sometimes I listen to them late at night, and I swear I can hear patterns in those vocalizations that I didn't notice before, almost like words, almost like someone trying very hard to communicate something important. Life before and after that March night are 2 very different things. I used to think the ocean was this frontier we just hadn't fully explored yet, full of undiscovered species and natural wonders. I still think that's true, but now I also know there are things down there that maybe have been watching us longer than we've been watching them. Things that don't want to be discovered. Things that operate on timelines and purposes we can't begin to understand. The question isn't whether mermaids exist. The question is what we're really asking when we use that word. What we saw wasn't some Disney fantasy. It was something ancient and intelligent and utterly alien, and it knew we were there. If you've had your own unexplained encounter at sea, or if you've heard similar stories from people you trust, share it in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the Hidden Archive and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. I'm Fernanda, and I'll see you in the next one.